Welcome to the Keeperstop.com Goalkeeper Coaches Show. We are for goalkeepers, by goalkeepers, for the net-minded. Christian and Paul, as always, with special guest, Phil Wheddon.
Thanks for letting me be here.
Happy to have you here. He's actually playing locally, so that's why we have him in town. So we wanted to get him on. So this is a great resource. A little bit about Coach Phil. He's a highly respected international and national goalkeeping coach and coaching educator. He's been with the men's national team, the women's national team, 3 World Cups, two Olympic gold medals. So a ton of educational and coaching experience in the U.S. Creator of the Goalkeeper Education Conference called the International Goalkeeper Coaches Conference. It's amazing. I have attended all the years. I look forward to it. It's like Christmas for goalkeepers. Owner of GK1, and obviously, as I said before, he is the goalkeeper coach for the USL Bethlehem Steel, which is in the Philadelphia Union organization. Whew.
I think I need that as well.
He's got a long resume, but it is well worth it. One of my mentors. We're happy to have him on. So, Phil, first question that we have here is we wanted to talk about your experience at every level, right? You've coached some of the best goalkeepers that the U.S. has known to date, and I know that may be subject to interpretation, but I mean, facts are facts. You've coached Brianna Scurry, which is a legend, Hope Solo, which has redefined women's goalkeeping in many respects, Tim Howard, Casey Keller. In your estimation, what has made some of those players so great and so iconic?
Well, I think for most of them, it's just a natural ability. You know, a lot of it obviously is natural ability. It's reading the game. It's their ability to have an impact, but also do the simple things well. And I think that across a course of time, all the goalkeepers that play at the highest level do a really good job of doing the simple things well and making good decisions at the right time. And decision making for all goalkeepers is a make or break deal. You know, you can make tremendous saves, but if you can't make decisions, you're never going to make it. And as the game has evolved, obviously now we look at the goalkeeper and say, well, can he or she play with the feet? And both, you know, at the time, Hope Solo, when she came onto the scene, actually she started as a field player. And she held the Washington State goal scoring record. So she was a field player first who turned herself into a goalkeeper. Same with Tim Howard. You know, so yeah, you know, it's for those goalkeepers that make it, it's about decision making and being able to do all the other things well. And now, as you see around the world, everyone oohs and ahs about ter Stegen and Neuer and everyone else who's really good with their feet, Edison and Allison. You know. On the men's side, and when you look at it on the women's side as well, you know, if you look at the goalkeepers in the World Cup currently going on, you know, it's some of the ability to play with the feet is just spectacular.
Mm-hmm. So for me, because being the younger age of 44, I mean, I grew up at the same time that Tim Howard was moving through his career. What did you think that really set him apart? I mean, was it his athleticism? What is it? His dedication? What do you think from Tim, from Keller, from Hope? What was their defining characteristics?
Well, I think at the time, Tim Howard was just an incredible athlete. His ability to cover ground and cover space and make spectacular saves and cover the goal was phenomenal. So for him, that was an easy one, and obviously his career just skyrocketed very, very quickly. You know, for Hope, she was able to do the same thing in the women's game. You know, cover the goal well. She was fantastic with her feet. A very commanding presence, which sometimes you miss from certain goalkeepers. Some goalkeepers can be great at what they do, but don't have that presence. People like Hope and Casey and Tim, you know, and goalkeepers before, they all had that presence. For me, someone like a Casey Keller was possibly the most efficient goalkeeper that I've seen. Very little wasted energy, not very bouncy, you know, as you know, very, very, very subtle in his movements, but decision making was fantastic.
Wow. I mean, for me, is there a difference between, do you have to change the way you coach from the men's side to the women's side? Is there a huge difference in your methodology, or do you tend to keep the same methods and just tune it for each goalkeeper?
No, I think the ball is the same size, the field's the same size, the goal's the same size, it's the same game. So no, I think your personal interactions with the players may be slightly different, and it's the same for everyone. You talk to an 8-year-old differently than you talk to a 12-year-old. You know, so I think it's the same type of philosophy. I certainly never changed the way that I train people, whether it was a male or a female. I think the job is the same, the requirements are the same.
Yeah.
And you have to coach everyone to the highest level possible based upon their age and physical attributes.
Right.
And that's something that is really prevalent right now. We're getting these cookie cutter goalkeepers where they go to a goalkeeping school and everyone has to play like this. Well, I'm a little bit taller than you. I'm going to play the position differently.
Right.
And as coaches, I think we have to accept that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, we're in a World Cup, Women's World Cup time period, just finished up the Men's World Cup. So somebody that's been involved with 3 World Cups, 2 on the women's side. I mean, you've seen some changes in the evolution of the game. So based on what you've seen now, you've been quoted in a few articles of late. I'll be honest with you, I mean, I've been awestruck, wowed by the performances of the women's goalkeepers in the World Cup, from an athletic standpoint, from proficiency to their explosiveness. It's been incredible. What adjustments have you seen in these goalkeepers from World Cups that you've been experienced and participated in to now?
Well, as the game evolves, I think the goalkeeping position has evolved, and if you look at the goalkeepers that are playing currently, again, like I said before, the ability with the feet is far better than it ever has been. Their ability to play the space in behind the back 4 or back 3 or whatever system they're playing. So the tactical implications of the system, the goalkeepers are now I would say that they're more students of the game, they're better students of the game, so they read the game better for the most part. And obviously everyone makes mistakes, but the level of goalkeeping, the level of tactical and technical understanding and execution so far in the World Cup has been fantastic.
Some of the observations that we've seen, some of the stats have been that there's more shots, like 18% more shots that are happening inside the box as opposed to in prior World Cups. So it's those stats where we goalkeeper coaches have had to evolve our game, where maybe it's, you know, shot stopping off a ball being, played back across to a center mid, or, varying header situations. So it's something we've had to evolve to. But what I've been most impressed with is just, how athletic they've been. In the past, it's always been this misconception is that women goalkeepers they're not athletic and they don't have the same abilities as men. And the reality is that, hearing Bardsley's comment is that when she was growing up in California, she trained in a men and women environment. Amazing. That's pretty progressive. And these women goalkeepers are just amazing, and what they've had to deal with from a stress standpoint, from a performance standpoint has been incredible. But I liked, you were on the article with ESPN about Alyssa Naher's response, because she played a ball and she got caught and it caused a goal. And I love the coaching staff's response to be like, and her response as well was, you're not defined by one mistake, you're not defined by one pass back. And what we're putting on these goalkeepers as far as pressure, that you have to play the ball with your feet and you have to be just as proficient with center mids, there's going to be some issues. Yeah. So I love that response. It's been, pretty inspiring for me. I don't know if you've any other observations you've had with the World Cup. I mean, the amount of touches that you've seen with their feet. Is it, balls that are driven in near post more so, or whatever?
Well, I think that again the position has changed, and we all know that the key areas where shots come from are 12 yards and in, and typically just in front of both posts. So if you drew 2 boxes around from the 6-yard box to the penalty spot, around both posts, that's where most goals are scored. Tactically, players are bigger, faster, stronger. So they're getting around the back four or back three, serving balls across the box, and we've got 3, 4. Every coach wants 3 or 4 players crashing into the box to get on the end of things. So that's where the shots are coming from. And goalkeepers, have to be better in those areas, which also means that goalkeepers are potentially catching less.
Right.
Because it's closer range shot stopping. And with the pace that these balls come, we're seeing less balls being held, which is just part of the game. Mm-hmm. And as with every other World Cup, and if you go across time, you would look at it and say the average is the goalkeeper touches the ball 7 more times with her feet or her hands, or his hands or feet, than they do with the feet. I got that mixed up, didn't I? Yeah, so 7 more times with the feet than they do with the hands. And so now coaches are looking at that and saying, okay, well, do we need to now spend more time with the feet than we do with the hands? And that's another interesting situation that's going to come out of this World Cup. Like, what are the stats? How many times with the feet are the players touching the ball?
Yeah. I mean, we have a young audience that would love to know what happens prior to a game, leading up to the game in a World Cup, the pressures. How does the goalkeeper coach help the goalkeeper prepare for the game? And then in a situation like Nair had a mistake the other day, how do you approach the goalkeeper after the game when a mistake has been made and try to rebuild the confidence?
Well, to answer the first part, you do so much prep work behind the scenes. So you scout every opponent. Obviously, you know the individual tendencies of the forwards,
right.
And you try and replicate that in your training. So the goalkeeper is not shocked by what she sees when she steps on the field. Okay. So they're well prepared. Set pieces, you know what they're going to do, or you can anticipate. Penalties, you know which side they go to, and you come up with a way to relay that information to the goalkeeper. So there's a tremendous amount of prep work that goes on behind the scenes, and on game day it's just time to execute. Right. And if you've done your training sessions in the right way, the goalkeeper has seen the situations that she's going to see, and when they happen in the game, she'll be prepared for them. Pressure is something that you either thrive in or you fail in. There's not that in between. So players at this level, at the highest international level, they can cope with pressure. Yeah. And your job as a goalkeeper coach in those environments is to also be able to manage the pressure. Because there are coaches out there that get panicked and can't cope with the magnitude of the situation. And as a goalkeeper coach, it's important that you are relaxed, that you can portray that, tell jokes, whatever, to relax everyone else around you. So I think that's a critical piece of it. So the goalkeeper coach's role, stepping onto that pitch, even for the warm-up, is a major thing. So again, as a coach, your service has to be on point. And if you miss kick a ball, you make a joke out of it, or depending on the goalkeeper you're working with, you get another ball in pretty quickly and make sure that your service is on point. Pressure is something that we all have to deal with, the coaches and players. As far as a mistake goes, I think you discuss it immediately after the game, so that the goalkeeper can have a short-term memory. And as a coach, you've got to have a short-term memory as well. You can't dwell on that and have, as you said before, have that mistake define the goalkeeper. Right. Unfortunately, on the world stage, and you're always being compared to other goalkeepers, that's something that Alyssa and the US staff is dealing with. Right. But it's great that the coaches came out and protected her.
It was amazing. Great article.
And if you look back over time, you look back at some of the big mistakes that have happened in the last few events. So you look at obviously Karius in the Champions League, and how that actually changed his pathway. And then you look at Robert Green, the mistake against the US in the Men's World Cup a few World Cups ago. I mean, that defined him to a certain extent, but
although he's doing very well as the third or fourth string.
I think he's just officially retired.
Oh,
I think he's sailed off into the sunset now. He's retired. So
yeah, but he's probably still wearing his gloves.
I'm sure.
Of course. All right, a question that I have is in relation to how you calm down and motivate your goalkeepers. So they do make a mistake. How do you bring them back into the now? And sometimes it needs to be, you know, as we've spoke about Karius, you know, and there's other goalkeepers that make mistakes. What are some of the characteristics or some of the methods that you use to kind of bring them back in to settle them down?
Well, again, if it's happening in a game, you've got, if it's in the first half, you've got half time to try and deal with it, and at that point you're really talking about what's going to occur in the next half. Hey, this is what I've seen, don't worry about that, it's over, we can't control it, let's move on, and then focus on what's going to happen after the game. Obviously it depends on the result as well. Did that mistake cost you the game?
Right.
Or were you able to, you know, win the game or draw it? You know, so the outcome of the game often will determine how you deal with the mistake. If it loses you the game, then that's a longer term recovery.
Right.
And I use that term on purpose because it is a recovery at that point. If your nation gets knocked out of the World Cup on a goalkeeping mistake, it's a recovery period. That's not something that you can have a chat after the game and it will be done.
Yeah.
You know, the goalkeeper would need to know that you are there to support them.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really very much arm around him or her and make sure that you're showing the support you need to.
This is most important. A lot of them don't. A lot of coaches in youth level, it's like you made a mistake, and the reason why you lost is because of that one moment, and that support is so critical.
The age that we live in as well, the social media, it's instant. The criticism is instant, and you can be vilified in seconds. And you know, there's a psychological aspect to that recovery as just as much as like your game play and wanting to get back on the field and prove a point. But if it has cost your country or your team an important, you know, cup or the next level, you know, next group stage, trying to get the keeper back onto the level that they should be at has got to be difficult.
Yeah, and I think a goalkeeper and a goalkeeper coach can respond in certain ways. You can respond and say, I'm this, I'm that, and you can be loud and boisterous about it, or you can put your head down and work and let your actions paint the picture for you. And my preference would be that both of us would sit down, have a chat, and then get our heads down and work hard to make sure that in those key moments that occur in games, that we try and eliminate as many mistakes as possible.
So for the youth goalkeepers that are tuning in, and so youth goalkeeper coaches, some of the things that I've experienced and spoken to sports psychologists about are how to deal with immediate problems. And a high-level sports psychologist from England had a goalkeeper. If they made a mistake, they would exit one side of the goal, come back around the other side, and then when they got back on the field again, it was their rebirth. It was a deep breath, you know, something as simple as, you know, fixing a sock from a youth perspective, you know, exhaling, pulling your socks up and getting back after it. Internationally or the pros is a lot different. There's a lot more at stake, but, you know, helping our youth goalkeepers get past those mistakes immediately is I think something that as coaches we don't focus enough on. We focus on handling and diving, but how do they recover from those mistakes? That's very important as well.
I mean, I know one of your previous guests, Dan Gaspar, has had a method where he said pick a blade of grass. Yeah. Because once you pick that blade of grass up out of the ground, you can't do anything. Like, you can't now say, "Oh, sorry," and replant it. You know, glue it back to that. That's done. You can't, so you know, you got to be able to deal with it and just move on. Short-term memory.
Put it in the past. One of the events that I look for every year, as I said before, is the International Goalkeeper Coaches Conference. So, as a small ambassador for the goalkeeper community, I want to say thank you for creating that and creating a forum for us to learn. So another successful year. It was down at IMG this year. Amazing setup. Great lineup of professional coaches. So with that in mind, and I know you're a consummate goalkeeping student, like a student of the game. You're always learning. who are the coaches that you're interested in, you're watching right now, that you're taking little beats and pieces from?
I mean, I watch everyone. Whether it's a U12 coach or a national team coach, I think you can always learn from anyone. I mean, when you at the conference this year, for example, one of the people that we brought in was Richard Hartis, who's just been named as Manchester United's goalkeeper coach. And one of the things that, when you go to a conference or when you go and watch someone work, everyone looks at the exercises, right? And you say, wow, yeah, I wouldn't do that and I wouldn't do this. And which is, that's coaching. So, you pick and choose from different people. But one of the things that I like most about the conference is the way that these coaches interact with the players. It's not the exercises necessarily, it's how do they coach? How do I get more out of you as a goalkeeper? How do I change your performance? And for example, Richard Hartis, I thought his demeanor on the field and in the classroom and the way that he motivated players and motivated us as attendees, it was fantastic. So I learned a lot from Richard. He's highly respected in the FA in England, and now obviously he's moved on to Manchester United. And then you look at someone like René Stam, who was here from Ajax, very, very different in his approach to goalkeeping, and that's the philosophy. The club philosophy is very different in Holland, in Ajax. So it was great. It was great to see these coaches and see how they interacted. Not necessarily what the exercise was. And as goalkeeper coaches, we're all guilty of it. We watch a session, we say, "No, that's not so good. I wouldn't do that." Or "Oh yeah, I'll do that." And what I'll do is I'll take that exercise and I'll modify that for my age level. But goalkeeper coaches are notorious.
We're beg, borrow, and stealing.
But we're notorious for bad mouthing every other goalkeeper coach because, oh no, that's rubbish. You should never do that. In my opinion, as long as it's relevant to the game and it has some purpose and you can explain why, it's something that we can all learn from. So at the conference. It's almost a selfish thing for me, really, because I bring in the people that I also want to learn from.
Right.
Michael Reckoner has been there twice now, and
amazing.
Yeah, and the first time he was there, he showed a blocking progression because that's the in thing. Is all the blocking stuff. So that was in 2017. This year he looked at complex training situations. So that was really maximizing your training environment, and it was decision making. Do I have to come for a cross? Am I diving for the ball? Reading the path of the ball within one environment. So again, it's something. The conference is something that, and if we look ahead to next year, and I've already got 4 people lined up for next year, presenters wise. If you look ahead, it's how is the game evolving? How is the game changing? Who are the people that are really dealing with that at the highest level and at the youth level? Let's try and get them together and surround ourselves with like-minded people and discuss it. It's fun. Again, that's a long-winded answer, but I look at everyone. I watch absolutely everyone.
From my experience, some of the guests that you've brought, the featured clinicians, and we've named a number of them, but it's been impactful to my goalkeeping coaching because it's not just here's a picture and we take it home and go do it, but using Michael Reichner as an example, we discussed, all of us in that environment, of why he uses certain techniques at what distances, and it's based on 10 years of data, goalkeeping touch points, World Cups, Olympic, every goalkeeping touch point, and he came up with, this is what we found and what works. So it's amazing. It's not just do this, it's why we do it. Speaking with John Achterberg from Liverpool, as a goalkeeper coach, he was giving us some insight of how he would help, a goalkeeper develop or recover from a mistake, or how to build confidence in goalkeepers, or how to work with 3 to 5 goalkeepers. What to provide for the number 1, the number 2, number 3, how to provide that support. It's amazing insight and interaction and exposure. So
Yeah, again, having those coaches in there is fantastic, and it's an opportunity for all of us to learn and those things, how to deal with a number one, number two, number three. But the other side of it is we're trying to touch on each aspect of the game. So the men's game, the women's game, the academy, the youth level, those things are so important because we in this country we have such a lack of grassroots education for goalkeeper coaches, and in turn that means that our young players aren't getting the type of coaching that they need or aren't getting coached at all. So we need to really again at the conference we bring in Jason Grubb or Renee Stahl or people like that who are dealing with the youth at the moment, with the hopes that people can take ideas away and impact not only their goalkeepers but goalkeeper coaches in their area. And that way we can develop our grassroots in this country, develop the goalkeepers at the grassroots level and hopefully start them on their pathway.
At any level in the US right now, and this is my own opinion, is that goalkeeper coaching education, from a coaching standpoint as well as the player standpoint, is an afterthought. It's secondary. Goalkeeper coaches get paid less. The time that we get with goalkeepers is less. It's just the nature of the beast right now. So if we really want to produce the best number one, I think as a country we have to be doing it better, and it starts with the club level, it starts with the youth programs, it starts with the U8, 9, 10 coaches, and that's why this conference, International Goalkeeper Coaches Conference, is so important. We're going to try to convince Phil to maybe do this a little bit more on a regional basis as well, so coming to a theater near you in New England. Exceptional learning opportunity. Do you have any other advice or insight for youth coaches? Since we say it's such an important segment of the goalkeeper coach and education area, what insight do you have and advice do you have for youth coaches?
Well, I think that the first and foremost is helping to develop a love of the game for the goalkeepers, and make everything realistic to the game. Why do we still have people doing forward rolls and somersaults and diving through hoops and diving over things, right. Like diving over barriers or trash cans or people stacked in a pyramid? I mean, if we can make it functional, if we can make it realistic to the game, if we can develop a love for the position and a love for the game in our youth players, then I think we're on the right path. If we're barking and yelling and criticising the U9, U10, all the way up to U14 goalkeepers, if we're on them constantly, whether it's the head coach or goalkeeper coach or whatever, we're not developing the love for the game. They're going to make mistakes at those ages, and as coaches, we have to understand that. But again, we go back to providing them with realistic environment and support. Right. Giving them good coaching information, giving them the whys and the hows. You can pull anyone off the street and say, okay, kick a ball at this person for 25 minutes. But we've got to make sure that we are giving the right information at the right times.
This year we had youth coaches. We had MLS Academy coaches that were there observing pro coaches. College coaches, so it really represented the range, which was great. So again, looking forward to another International Goalkeeper Coaches Conference, and as always we appreciate your time and experience. If goalkeepers wanted to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you? Or are you doing camps right now, or what are you doing now?
Well, with my current position, I've got quite a lot of different responsibilities within the club, so camps are a little bit difficult at the moment. But if I'm on Twitter at Phil Wheddon, or my email is phil@gk1.com, phil@gkone.com. I'm passionate about the game. I'm passionate about the position. I'm still learning at the ripe old age of 25. I'm still trying to get better at what I do. No need to laugh at the back over there either. I'm still trying to get better at what I do. So if I can help anyone in any way, I'd be happy to.
Fantastic.
So at GK1, you can reach Phil, which is his goalkeeper education company. Goalkeeper coaches, it is a must for your development, for the development of your goalkeepers. follow goalkeeper coaches, and one of them is Phil Wheddon. So look at the International Goalkeeper Coaches Conference on every social media. We have the same social media person, so you see us, you see them. But again, the IGCC, International Goalkeeper Coaches Conference. Phil, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure, very insightful. I wish I can keep you for a couple more hours, but I know you have to prepare for a game. Yeah. Any questions, as always, Keeperstop is here for you. We love having insightful goalkeeper coaches and guests and just talking goalkeeping. So again, Keeperstop is for goalkeepers, by goalkeepers, for the net-minded. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, share with your friends, your family, your aunts, your uncles, your dog, whatever. We love to hear from you. Keep the questions coming. Until next time.